First, we're going to start by dedicating the class. We're going to mention some names, and later on, if you want to write a name in very clear handwriting, and you can either email it to me or give it to you on a piece of paper, but with very clear handwriting. Baruch Hashem, I have a very big zchut. I live in Tzfat. I live in one of the most holiest cities in the world, and a 5-minute walk from me, there's about 500 tzaddikim resting there. So every Friday and every Rosh Chodesh we go to the Kvarim of the Ari HaKadosh and Yosef Karo and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and many others, and we mention names there. So if you want to write a name, but it has to be in a very clean handwriting, because sometimes I find it hard to read them. Now we're not going to have time to mention everybody's names. We're just going to read these names. This will be Le'ilu Nishmat Amram ben Avigail, Miriam bat Nima, Avigail bat Sultana, Getel bat Shmuel, Moshe ben Zelig, Batya bat Mazal, Yitzchak Chaim ben Chava, Pesach Leah, Pesach Leah, bat Sarah, thank you. Ada bat Mazal, Rafael ben Zakia. Should have Aliyat Neshama and a great miraculous health. Refuah Shlema for Rafael Linido ben Margalit, Naomi bat Zikia, David ben Yafa, and anybody else who needs a Refuah Shlema should have a miraculous recovery and a Refuah Shlema. And a very great thanks to Miriam bat Juna and Shalom ben Zahara. They should have great nachat from their kids and grandkids and health, long life, and Bechlal, everybody in this room and Klal Israel completely should have great blessings, both in the spiritual and the physical, and the beracha and parnasa and yirat shamayim and love, and anybody who needs to get married should find their other half. Anyone who needs kids with yirat shamayim should have many, many kids, and everything that your heart desires. Hashem should bless you in the best way possible. So, we're going to go Be'ezrat Hashem about an hour with our class, and later on we'll take some time to take some questions and answers, and Be'ezrat Hashem, I'll try to get to everybody's questions. During the class, try not to ask questions because it's very distracting and there's a lot of people here, and if we take everybody's questions throughout the class, then we'll finish tomorrow morning. But I promise that after the class, if you have questions, I'll be more than happy to answer whatever question you have. And we'll start with a great thanks to, of course, Stacy and Melanie for opening their home and advertising and getting everybody together and making this night happen. Should also be blessed with great health and wealth and happiness and nachat from the kids, and everything that your heart desires should be blessed in the best way possible. So, we have titled the class that you have the choice to be happy. Most people are not happy, unfortunately. So we know the famous quote from the Talmud, Mishenichnas Adar marbim besimcha. When Adar comes, then we increase joy and happiness. Which brings to a big question: if now we have to increase happiness, then it means that before that there was not enough, because now we have to increase. If before was a lot of happiness, then why do I need to increase? Then I'm happy. Which means if now I have to increase happiness, must be that prior to that we were lacking. Which, first of all, comes the big question: why do we have to dafka in Adar increase happiness? Why cannot I increase happiness on Nisan? I think it's a better month. We got out of Mitzrayim. That's a good reason to be happy. Oh, 2 months later in Sivan we got the Torah. Why don't we increase happiness on Sivan? Or in Tishrei, there's a lot of holidays. Or Kislev, there's Chanukah. Dafka in Adar, I have to increase happiness. So, we know that based on the teachings of Kabbalah, this can be found in the book that is called Sefer Yetzirah, Book of Formation, then we know that every month has a certain sense, every month has a certain energy, every month is created by a certain letter from the Aleph Bet, every month is connected to one of the tribes, but every month has a certain sense, a certain energy that is more powerful that if I tap into this energy, then I can benefit from that. And the sense of the month of Adar is the sense of laughter, tzchok. Now, the tzchok, the laughter that we know of, is fake laughter. It's from jokes, or from movies, or from nonsense. But the real laughter is something that's coming from within me, from within my soul. And I want to be able to reveal that. So I can be happy, but true happiness, not fake happiness. And in the month of Adar, then there's the ability, if I tap into it, to reach into this inner laughter in me to bring the real happiness out. So since this is the energy of the month, so we want to talk about it because this is the most appropriate. After all, the Torah, when we learn from the Torah is not a history book. It's not here to tell me something that happened 3,000 years ago. If I want to read history, I will go to a history book. The Torah has nothing to do with history. The Torah is about teaching. The Torah comes from the word in Hebrew, hora'ah, to teach. If I'm smart, I'm going to the Torah, because that's the source of everything, to take some type of a lesson so I can apply into my life. Because if I live my life and I don't do anything about it, and I don't change, and I don't work on myself, and I don't refine myself, then why did I come to this world? If a person lives in this world and they think that they only came here for 60 years, 70 years, 80 years to eat, to sleep, to go on a vacation, drive a nice car, and then leave, then that's a distorted thought. We didn't come here for 80 years and then we become manure. We came here as a stop in my journey, my spiritual journey, and if I'm smart, I gather a lot of information and a lot of sparks, godly sparks from this physical place, and then I continue on my journey. Our soul is eternal. The body maybe decomposes after I die, but my soul is eternal. So if I come to this world for 67 years, it's almost like going now on a vacation, and I'm going to Rome, and what, you're going to go all the way to Rome, you're not going to shop a little bit, go to some designer clothes and get some nice clothes there? We went all the way there, do some shopping. So some people go on trips to shop, some people go to sightsee. Unfortunately, I don't have to say unfortunately, but I travel every 5-6 weeks to tours of lectures. And my wife, she has to stay home with all the kids. So we have a system. I go with empty suitcases. She has an Amazon Prime account. And then I come home with full suitcases. So I don't want to compare myself to this white bearded guy that the non-Jews like on their holiday, but I come home, I'm like the number one dad. I have all the presents, and the joke is that I don't know what she buys. Just today, my daughter texted me, "Did you buy me this and this?" "Yes." "How many?" I said, "It's a surprise." No, how many you brought? I don't even know what you bought. I don't know, it's in the box. And I'm like, "A lot. Don't worry, it's a surprise. Did you get the green one or the red one?" "Don't you want to be surprised?" "I'm telling you, it's a surprise." On the other line, I'm telling my wife, "Which color is it? Which color?" So, I'm like the number one dad in the world. I come with heavy suitcases. So some people go on trips and they go sightseeing. Some people go on trips and they do shopping. So we're on a trip in this world. So what are you taking out of this world? So you want to take something. You didn't come here to waste your time. You came here to grow spiritually and to refine your soul. And that you leave this world and you go to the next world with a profound achievement. So this month is a very powerful month. Unfortunately, very, very sad that most people, they're not really happy. And if they're happy, it's a fake happiness. Very few people say, "I'm really, really happy. I'm happy with my business. I'm happy with my wife. I'm happy with my kids." Unfortunately, we go through a lot of hardship. Really, when you're thinking about it, in the month of Adar, why are you telling me to be happy? Read the Megillah. This is like the highlight of the month. What's happy there? It's a Holocaust. It's going to be a Holocaust. Why am I happy? Haman wants to destroy us. Achashverosh wants to destroy us. We are in exile. What's the reason to be happy? I can understand after Purim I can be happy, because then we were saved. So tell me, after the middle of Adar, start becoming happy. Why are you telling me in the beginning of the Adar to start becoming happy? So The conclusion from that I'm not happy because of the historical event that happened 2,000 years ago, 2,500 years ago. I'm happy because this is the month that there's a certain energy in the universe that if I tap into it, then I can derive a certain power that will enliven my neshama to bring me true happiness. And at the end of the day, everybody wants to be happy. I don't know anybody who says I want to be miserable and I want to sleep in bed all day long and be depressed. Everybody wants to be happy and light and feel that they're achieving things. Unfortunately, when you don't feel that, when you don't have that, then you start running after fake joys, all sorts of instant gratifications. And you know it's not going to make it, so you buy another nice shirt and another nice handbag and another vacation or newer car. So the happiness is for a minute, for a day, for a week or for 2 weeks, but it's not real happiness. And the real happiness is measured at the end of the day when you're under the covers. How do you really feel? If you're really happy or if you're like, who am I kidding? I'm miserable. So we know that the real happiness is coming after the story of Purim. And we're not going to talk about the story of Purim today. I'm sure you learned and heard enough about Purim. I want to talk about how one can be really happy. And the title of the class who says that you have the choice if you want to be happy. You choose if you want to be happy. You can choose to be happy. You can choose to be miserable. It's totally your choice. The reason why now we're talking about it, because the month is called Adar. Adar comes from the word in Hebrew, Aderet. Aderet means a cover, a kisui. And usually, things that are good are covered. If you have millions and millions of dollars in jewelry, you don't put it on the table. You put it in a safe. Why? I don't want anybody to touch it. If I'm just going to put it on the dashboard, somebody would break into my car. So when something is good and amazing and priceless, then you hide it. The Torah is priceless. Where you put the Torah on the table? The Torah is in the ark. It's closed in an ark, and it's covered with a curtain, and nobody can see it, and it's locked. So whatever is priceless and whatever is valuable, you hide. So when something is good, usually you won't see it's good. The Talmud says, "En bracha shora ela b'davar samui min ayin." The blessing only dwells on something that is hidden from the eye. You want something to be blessed? Don't show it to all the world. When you show something to the entire world, then it doesn't have bracha in it. Le'efech, chas v'shalom. It can attract to it completely the opposite. It can be ayin hara, can be many different things that will attract it by the fact that I exposed it. So you want to get the most bracha or something, you hide it. A couple is engaged, before they're engaged, while they're still dating, not the whole world needs to know about it. A woman is pregnant, till she shows, don't have to tell the whole world. You have a success in some business, you're about to close on the house, whatever it is, you don't have to now put it on your Facebook profile that the whole world sees. Why? Because a minute later the business deal will not go, and now what happened? Now the whole world, what happened to the deal? Well, you said you're signing to the house. Later on, you show it, and Bechlal, tzniut, modesty is always the best thing to do. And tzniut is not necessarily how long your dress is. Tzniut is how you talk and how you behave, and men also have to be modest. Because when you keep things quietly, that's where the bracha will really dwells. So, the good in my life is always going to be concealed. And I know a lot of people say, listen, I want to see the good. You're giving me now concealed good. But the real good in my life is always going to be concealed and not so obvious. I have to understand that the good in my life will be covered. And the entire month of Adar is about covering the good. That's why it's called Adar. Again, the word in Hebrew, Adar, comes from the word Aderet. And Aderet means a kisui, means a cover, when something is covered. And Adar is the last month of all the months. I know people think that Tishrei is the first month, but Tishrei is not the first month. It's actually the 7th month. Nisan is the first month, which makes Adar the last month. It's the last month, very powerful energy. Most people, whether they acknowledge it or not, you can ask yourself later, most people in the month of Adar are very tired, physically tired and emotionally tired, because it's the month of the end of the winter. It's when the energy is very, very low, but nevertheless, Nisan comes and then everybody gets rejuvenated with new energy. If you look inside yourself or you make an analogy, you'll see that most of the people in Adar are tired, physically tired. And if not physically tired, then emotionally tired. And they kind of feel down. It just means you need to keep it up a little bit, and then in Nisan you get new energies. But when it comes to see the good and the bad in my life, I have the choice. I have the control how I choose to see things in my life. How do I see something in darkness and I put the light on it? The flashlight, the torch, the spotlight. You choose where you put the spotlight. If you want to put the spotlight on something good, or you want to put the spotlight on something bad. It's very easy to put the spotlight and the focus on something bad, and that's what most people do. Most people, they focus on the bad, they don't focus on the good. Yesterday we were talking, I was in Queens, there was a big Shabbaton there, there was a lot of classes, a lot of discussions, and one person came up to me after one of the classes, and there was some questions, and he told me, how can you not have feelings of being judgmental towards another person that does something bad in the Torah? And I tell him, okay, give me an example. So he says, there's one guy in our shul that he comes and he talks loud and he disturbs and he talks on the phone and he's not behaving appropriate to how you would expect somebody in the Bet Knesset to behave. And I have feelings that I get very upset and I get judgmental and I get angry, and why is he disturbing? So I told him, we had somebody like that where I used to pray. He used to make noise, talk loud, talk on the phone. And I said, you know how I got myself to not be judgmental towards him or not to have any anger towards him? And I used to say to myself, he came before me. I came later than him, which means that he came a little bit earlier to the shul. So yeah, he might have 99% bad, but I choose to see the 1% that is better than me. Once I see somebody's better than me, then I'm not judgmental so much towards him. Because it means that I have also bad things. I just choose what I look at. I can look at in any situation at the good, and I can look at any situation at the bad, and that's totally up to me. Now, the problem with all of us, and really when you're talking about the topic of simcha and happiness and everything that has to do with that, this is not a class, this is like has a course. You can't really talk about happiness in half an hour to an hour. And it's something that is vital. Everybody needs to be happy. Most people are not happy. Most people are actually unhappy, and most people are depressed and sad and uptight and miserable. So we're going to talk about one part that will affect a person's simcha in their life. But nevertheless, there's much more to it. Unfortunately, we have a very bad characteristic, and we all have that we are very judgmental, and we like to criticize. And I'm talking about other people, not myself. If I would be criticizing myself, that's one thing. But I like to look at other people, and I'm first of all judgmental, but as a result from that, I start criticizing people. And when I criticize people, you know what happens? I find them guilty in things. I blame them in things. It can happen with my wife. And if I'm not having a good day, I'll criticize her. Why you do this? Why you said that? How come you did this? How come you did that? But you started. It's your fault. So when I'm critical and I'm very judgmental, I will get to start blaming another person. And you'll see that the key to a lot of the disasters, especially with relationships, is that I blame somebody else. Most people don't take the blame on themselves. Most people say, you started. Yesterday I spent with Melave Malka or somewhere. We had a very big class, and after that the class started drifting, and we from a big amount of people it became less and less and less, and then towards the end of the night we were a very small group of people, and we were starting to talk about all sorts of things. They had all sorts of personal questions, and one of them had a question that everybody felt that it's appropriate, and we were talking about the dynamics in the house. Most people, when you go to visit them, if you're invited for Shabbat or you're invited just to walk in, the house is nice and calm and everything is very jolly. And the second that you leave out of the house, screaming and arguments, things flying around the house. And when somebody walks in, everybody's on the best behavior. You know how many times I'm invited to Shabbat to a house, everything around the table is all nice and polite and quiet. But that's not how it is when I'm not in the house. When I'm not in the house, it's the chaos. The husband is screaming at the wife is screaming at the kids are fighting, throwing things at each other, and everybody has it. Don't think that you are the only house that is a chaos. All the houses are chaos, but nobody's happy with that. Everybody's like, I want my house to be relaxed. I want the kids to listen. I want the Shabbat table to be nice. So we were talking about different types of approaches. How do you approach that? The house has to be relaxed. I mean, really, when you walk into people's houses, you don't see it because, like I said, when you go to somebody else's house, everything is on the best behavior, and everything is like with smiles and the elbows. Don't. So, but the reality is that the second you're not there, the dynamics in the house is different. So that's what we were talking about. A few couples. And I was explaining to them, listen, I also have a house. I also have a wife. I also have 6 kids. My house is not, it's not that I live in some cloud somewhere in the sky. I'm a human being exactly like everybody else. So I was talking about how we have a certain ritual in our house that we do a family meeting. Usually it's every 2-3 weeks, unless it's called for it. And sometimes one of the kids or one of the parents can call for a family meeting. The family gathers around the table. And then the rule of this family meeting that everybody says what's on their mind, but nobody's allowed to answer back. And I have little kids. It's not that my kids are in their 30s. I have little kids. And if one of the kids will say, you did this and it bothered me, the other person is not allowed to answer, but you started. Or you did this to me. This is not a discussion. It's just people putting their information on the table. That's a challenge not to answer back, because if somebody comes and tells you, but you did this and it hurt my feelings, what do you do right away? You answer back. You defend. But you did. You started. But you said this and that. And before you know it, the whole table is a chaos. So the rule of the family meeting is that there's no arguments. It's only allowed to put information on the table, what bothers me in something that you did. Later on, then we look at the information, we will analyze the information and so forth, and it's unbelievable, and it's extremely helpful, and the kids feel that they get their word out, and there's no argument. It cannot be an argument. And that's the problem, is that when somebody blames you in something, you right away throw the blame back. And when we become judgmental and critical, then the first thing that will happen is blaming. Why are you blaming me? A couple, they fight, right away, both feel, but you're blaming me. So, there is a, blaming in Hebrew, by the way, is said lehashim, or blame is ashma, or somebody who's guilty is ashem. We do know that in the Torah there are many types of sacrifices. There's one sacrifice that is called korban asham, the sacrifice of somebody who was guilty. Okay, there's many different types of sacrifices. This korban asham, very few individuals have to bring it. One of the individuals that needs to bring it is a Nazir. Nazir is an individual that took on himself an oath not to drink wine, not to have grapes, not to be next to a winery, not to touch a dead, be in the vicinity of a dead person, and so forth. And they grow their hair. Why? Because they want to become more holy, more closer to Hashem. But the problem is that I have to be involved in this world. I didn't come to this world to be a Nazir. I came to be involved in the world. What does it mean involved? If I drink now a cup of water, then I'm elevating the godly sparks in the water to their source. And when I eat, I elevate it to its source. Whatever I do, if I work and I make money, there's a godly spark in everything. Now, a Nazir that segregates himself from grapes, then how are you elevating the grapes? We do Kiddush with the wine, with grapes. And we have to eat it, consume it, and elevate it. So the Nazir is, so to say, instead of doing something good, he's doing something bad. He's bringing a lack. Or in the biblical term, he brings mavet, death. I mean, you're not doing what you're supposed to do. Therefore, he has to bring a certain sacrifice to atone for what he's lacking. So this is one sacrifice. Now, we unfortunately have the power to make somebody guilty. And that's a very bad thing, because when I point a finger at somebody, you know what happens? Then I make that person guilty. If now, let's say, just imagine now a few kids are in the house, something happened, the mom comes in, who did it? That's my kids. Nobody says anything. But then there's always the kid says, he did it. Why are you snitch? Why are you saying he did it? The second that he says he did it, he blames that person. Now what happens is that the one who actually did it is going to be in trouble. Now can you imagine how it works in the spiritual world? If I now put my blame on somebody, then I bring a judgment, what's called the din, on that person from the world above. If I look at you right now, and you did a certain sin, and I'm looking at it, and I say, hey, look at that person. He desecrated Shabbat. Hey, look at that person. He doesn't eat kosher. He lied. He cheated in business. What do I do? What do I become? I'm the witness. What am I doing to that person? I made him guilty. Now there's a din in Shemaim. I brought din, a judgment on that person. Can you imagine? Would you want somebody to do that to you? No. So why do it to somebody else? And now blaming another person. I'm the kid that when Hashem says, who did that? He did. Some kids, they have the oath in like the Italian mob. I don't talk. So why you snitch on this kid? He did it. So, and the thing is that we all do it, by the way. And I'm just giving one example, and it's very important that first of all, you don't take every word that I say literally. Take my words and kind of use some dynamics in your life, how you can relate with what I'm saying. But the fact is that we all the time, in many different situations, you use it to your own personal life, but we all the time point at somebody else with a guilty finger. You did that. He did that. And it's all the time. And I don't want to go into too many examples because we're just going to waste our time. It can be in a relationship with a husband and wife, and something happens, and the husband or the wife will blame you. It's because of you. You did that. You had to open your mouth. And it can be in a business transaction, it can be in the synagogue, it can be in so many places that you throw the blame at somebody else. When I throw the blame at somebody else, or I'm involved constantly blaming, and we're going to use back the word in Hebrew, leha'ashim, to blame somebody, you know what happens? I will never, ever be happy. Because I'm bringing a din on somebody else. And on us, constantly from the world above, there's a million cameras. The heavenly court is constantly looking at us from above, judging every moment, every thought, every action that I do. And if I now throw blame at you, then now you are on the spot, under the spotlight. So when I use this motion, I will never myself be happy. And we'll explain it more in depth. Why am I saying all this? Now, we do have a mitzvah in the Torah that it's called Hocheach Tochiach et Amitecha. You have to prove wrong your fellow friend. If I see you cheating, I have to tell you, listen, you're not allowed to do that. If I see you now hurting somebody else's feelings, I have to come and tell you, that's not the right way to do it. It's not appropriate. I have to prove you. But if you read the verse, what it says, Hocheach Tochiach et Amitecha velo tisa alav chet. You have to prove your fellow friend when they did something wrong, but you can't throw on him a sin. Lo tisa alav chet. You can't throw the sin on that person. So it's a catch-22. How do I prove you wrong without me throwing the sin on you, and now you have the spotlight on you? So when I do that in the wrong way, what do? I put on the person the blame. And now, from Shamayim, they're looking at that person. Now there's a din on this person. Now I become the witness. He will become guilty. Now I'm the one who's bringing this problem. And this action that I'm talking about, this is called to be judgmental. And when I'm becoming when I criticize, we criticize people all day long. Did you see how he behaved? Did you see what she said? Did you see how she was talking to him? And this is criticizing, and we criticize people all day long. Why? Because we're extremely judgmental. So today we're going to focus on this. Why? Because I'm blaming people for other things that they do. I'm not looking at myself. 99.9% of the time that I point the finger at somebody else, I'm doing the exact same thing. In a different form, or maybe in a different time. But I usually do the same thing. But what happens is, I start blaming other people, I become very judgmental, very critical, and I criticize. So this is one thing we're going to talk about. Why? Because where is blame, there will never be joy and happiness. If I'm constantly on the blaming side, I'll never be happy. And you know where you see it the most? When a couple is fighting. A husband and wife, they're fighting. It's your fault, you started, you said. How are you going to be ever happy when you're blaming? A smart person says, okay, it doesn't matter who's wrong right now, let's see what's the problem. It's very easy to get into a fight, whether it's your wife or your husband or your partner or your neighbor. It's very easy to throw the blame somebody else. I don't want to be the wrong one. You're the wrong one. When you're busy with that, you'll never have happiness, because the simcha doesn't work with that. Now, we are in a period where we're reading a group of parashot about the building of the tabernacle. And everything that we read in the Torah has a connection to the period of time where we are. And like I told you before, the Torah is not a history book. The Torah is a manual. So if I'm looking at the time of the month of Adar, it's always going to be Purim, we're always going to read the same parashot of Truman, Ki Tetzaveh, and Ki Tisa. And what is it talking about? It's talking about building a tabernacle. V'asitim le'mikdash v'shachanti betocham. Build me a sanctuary, and I will dwell in you. What is this whole concept of the Mikdash? Mikdash comes from the word in Hebrew, Kadosh, or Kedusha, holy, holiness. So I want to see, is there a connection between holiness, Kedusha, and happiness? And the answer is 100% yes. If there's no Kedusha, there's no holiness, there will never be happiness. And if there's no happiness, there'll never be Kedusha. You know where you see it? Look at all the prophets. A prophet cannot receive prophecy if he's in a state of sadness. A prophecy can only happen when the prophet is in a state of utmost happiness and joy. I told you already, I live in Tzfat, and my neighbor is the Ari HaKadosh, the Holy Ari. He says on himself that the greatest Giluim that he ever got was only on Shabbat and only when he was in utmost state of happiness and joy. That's when you bring Kedusha and holiness into the system. Where else do we see that Kedusha, that holiness and happiness go together? 3 times a year we celebrate our festivals. Pesach is coming up. I know you say the word Pesach, people are like, oh my God, no, I'm going to sell the whole house, go on Kosherika, I don't need this headache. So you just say the word Pesach, people start already. Good thing that we can sell the house. But nevertheless, so we have Pesach, then after that we have Shavuot, after that we have Sukkot. What does it say in the Torah? V'samachta b'chayecha. You have to be happy. Joy and happiness is in the holiday, in the festival. It's all about joy and happiness. So there is a huge connection between Kedusha, holiness, and Simcha. Take the word Simcha in Hebrew. Simcha is happiness and joy. How do you write it? You write it with a shin, even though you read it as a sin, Simcha, then a men, then a chet, then a hey. If you switch the order of the letters of Simcha, you get another word. And that's the word in Hebrew, Mishcha. Mishcha is a cream. Mishcha is also what we read in our week's parasha. In Ki Tisa, they made the Mishchat HaKodesh, the Shemen Mishchat Kodesh. I'm sure you sing on Friday night the song of Bar Yochai. Bar Yochai, Nimshachta, Ashrecha, Shemen Kodesh, right? What is this Nimshachta? What is what he puts on himself? Hand cream. But we see that in the Torah everything was anointed with a special oil. So there's something in this word Mishcha. Very, very interestingly, in Tehillim, chapter 30, it says Mizmor Shir Chanukat Habayit LeDavid. This is the song when they anointed the Bet HaMikdash. Mizmor Shir Chanukat Habayit. The first letter of every one of these words is Mishcha. Mizmor Shir, right? Chanukat Habayit. So this is the word, the letters of Mishcha. And what is it talking about? David HaMelech build before he built that Bet HaMikdash, but nevertheless everything had to be anointed. David HaMelech was anointed by Shmuel. Shmuel came into Bethlehem with a special oil and he anointed him. Very soon Mashiach is going to come. Why do you think he's called Mashiach? Because he's going to be anointed also with this Mishcha. When Bet HaMikdash was built, or now when we're reading in the Parashot about the Mishkan, everything had to be anointed with this oil. Just imagine, now we're gonna talk about it very soon, but one of the first things that they built for the Mishkan was the Ark, the Aron HaBrit. The beginning was a piece of wood and some gold. Till they poured the oil on it, there was no Kedusha in it. There was nothing holy. It was just gold and a piece of wood. Once they anointed it with the oil, then it became Kadosh. So we see that everything, in order for it to become holy, has to be anointed with this oil. And where do we find this oil? In this week's parasha, in Kitisa, where it's talking about Shemen Mishchat Kodesh, that you have to take a bunch of, Moshe Rabbeinu, took all sorts of spices and herbs, mixed them together, and he made this special oil. Going back to what we were talking before, that if a person, there's no Kedusha, then the person will never be happy. On the other hand, if the person is never happy, they will never have Kedusha, holiness. And I know a lot of people say, Kedusha, what am I, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, I have to have Kedusha? Well, I'm a holy Jew. I have a holy neshama. Not only me, all of you. You have a holy neshama in your body, which means that you have the ability to enjoy and to have Kedusha. You want a holy house, you want a holy Bet Knesset, you want the holy yeshiva, you also want your mind to be holy. And you want your mouth to be holy, and your business, you want Kedusha. It doesn't matter, you don't have to be a tzaddik for that, but you want to have this Kedusha. Now, the problem is with most people, they have sadness, bitterness, anger, frustration, and so forth. This is most people. One person is angry because he wanted to marry that woman and she doesn't want him. Another person is sad because he invested his money here and the business didn't work out. Everybody has their own causes and reasons why they're happy, why they're sad, depressed, and disappointed, and so forth. But nevertheless, this has to be get rid of. You have to get rid of all these feelings. And the way to get rid of it is only if I bring an increased Kedusha, holiness. There's no way of being happy if there's no Kedusha in my life. And the other way around. Now, what is real happiness? Some people say, if I had now $5 million, oh wow, I would be so happy in a nice Mercedes. It's okay, it's nice. I also like Mercedeses, but who says that's going to bring you happiness? You might be driving 2 days, 1 week, 3 weeks happy, and then the next model will come out. You know what? Your neighbor will buy a nicer one. Now you're not so happy. So I'm just giving one example out of many. But what's real happiness? People think happiness is a bigger house, more money, more success, a more attractive wife, whatever it is. But the real simcha, the simcha that we see in our generation, 99% of it is fake. 99% of the happiness that we have in our generation is fake happiness. It's all fake. And you know when you see it fake? Because it wears off after a short while. Because the clothes are out of style, or the whatever machine that you bought, there's a newer model, or whatever reason you got used to it. So you got used to it and that's it. So it doesn't give you so much happiness anymore. The real happiness, the real happiness can only come from one thing. Simcha really comes out of a mitzvah. When you do a mitzvah, that's when you really become happy. The real happiness. You know, I live in Tzfat. I mentioned that already 50 times, in case you missed that detail. Tzfat is a very poor city, unfortunately. Beautiful city, unbelievable history. You know, it's the first city in the world. Because Noach, when he came out of the ark, then the ark is somewhere in Turkey. Then he had 3 sons, right? Shem came to Tzfat, and that's it. This is the most oldest city in the world. I live 50 meters in front of the cave of Shem and Evel. So Tzfat is a beautiful city, but very poor. People are extremely poor there. But everybody's like that. Everybody's walking with a smile, like you think like as if they're giving drugs to people in the streets, and everybody's like as if they're spraying the air with I don't want to say with what, that people are inhaling like. But people are high there naturally, not because it's on a mountain. And why? Because most of the people there are very into their spiritual growth, to Torah. They learn Torah. There's one guy, I lived there for 3.5 years. There's one guy, I always see him, probably lives close to where I live, and I see him go, and he always has such a good mood, and he rides his bike, and you see real joy in his face. Real joy. And I never talked to him. We always nodded to each other. I don't know his name, anything. One time we actually started talking, and I'm looking at him, I'm like, wow, this guy's like, you see real simcha. And he has an old bike. It's not that it's like a 2019, the best bike in the world. A cheap bike. And I started once talking to him, and we're talking, and okay, after 10 minutes, he tells me, I'm sorry, I'm enjoying to talk with you, but I gotta run to the bank. I gotta take care of some business, And in the conversation, he tells me how he has 100,000 shekel debt in the bank. And I'm like, can I ask you a personal question? Yeah, of course. How can you be so happy when you have 100,000 shekel debt in your bank account? He says, because it's not 200,000. So he was very happy. So most people in where I live are so happy, but you know why? Because they're busy with mitzvot. And their life is about doing a mitzvah. And the real happiness comes from the mitzvah. Now, a lot of people think that mitzvah, if you translate the word, it comes from the word in English, commandment. It's half correct. Mitzvah comes from the word in Hebrew, tzavta. Tzavta means a strong connection. When I do a mitzvah, it's not because I'm commanded from Hashem to do it. Yeah, of course I'm commanded from Hashem. But when I do a mitzvah, I become one with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. This is what the meaning of the word tzavta, together. When I become one with Hashem, you can only be happy, real happy. Doesn't matter how many challenges you have. Most people have challenges. Everybody has challenges. Everybody has problems. And you know what? Everybody has them in pairs. Usually they come even in dozens. Everybody has problems. You think you're the only one who has a problem? You know, must be that I look like a wall for whatever reason. You know, in Israel, the number one tourist attraction in Israel, of course, is the Kotel HaMaravi, the Wailing Wall. Everybody goes and talks to the wall. I must look like a wall. Everywhere I go, people want to talk to me. And they tell me all their problems. People in the elevator, listen, Rabbi, I have a problem. I don't even know you. Listen, I have a problem. So constantly people come to me with their problems. Once I told my wife, do I look like a brick? People start putting notes now So everybody has problems, and a lot of them. And especially now in our generation, financial problems, health problems, problems with education of the kids. Hashem Yerachem, what people are going through. We all have a lot of problems. But it doesn't mean that I can't be happy. Because first of all, the true happiness will come from within, with my problems or without my problems. Like this guy, he has problems, but he still has them. Why should it affect him? I also have a lot of problems. People think that I'm some alien from a different star. That I also have kids, and I also have to pay tuition, and I also have a house, and I also have to feed them. I mean, we don't eat air. So I don't like calling it problems. It's not problems, but I'm just for the sake of the discussion, I'm saying, I also have these problems, but they don't affect me for 1 second. Because, it's not my problem. You know, my 8-year-old, I never saw him pasting in the living room, how am I going to pay my tuition? How is my father going to pay the tuition? You think he cares? If it was up to him, he wouldn't even go to school. But I never find him pacing in the living room. Oh my God, Dad, how are you going to pay the tuition? I'm so worried, Dad. My kid doesn't care. Hashem created millions of people and He takes care of everybody if you let Him take care of you. Hashem created billions of animals. You ever see a hungry animal? Billions of fish in the water. You think that Hashem is not feeding all the fish? You know, in Israel, there's millions of cats. I'm sure you visit one time. Israelis are infested with cats. Have you ever seen a cat walking in the street? Oh my God, where am I getting food? He's looking through the garbage and he'll find a little bit of food and eat. We're the only ones who are going under pressure. Oh my God, how am I going to deal with this problem? It's not even your problem. Your problems are not your problems. You're making them your problems. So we tend to take responsibility to all these problems that I have, but really, we all have a lot of things to deal with, challenges and problems. But it doesn't mean that it has to affect my level of simcha and happiness. What, if I'm going to be worried about my problems, it's going to solve anything? No. So why should it affect my simcha? You know, I always say, I fall asleep literally within a split of a second. I just put my head on the pillow, I'm already in the third dream. And sometimes my wife gets very annoyed. She was like, how do you fall asleep so fast? 20 minutes, I'm like this. 20 minutes, I'm like that. 20 minutes, I'm like this. She was like, how do you fall asleep so fast? So I said, well, first of all, I only have 2 hours to sleep. I don't have time to waste. But more than that, I'm not worried. I don't owe anybody anything. Nothing bothers me that I need to sit in my bed and think. I just put my head on the pillow and the switch goes down and that's it. Because I don't worry about anything. because it's Hashem's problem to worry about things. I don't worry about nothing. So the fact is that we all have problems, we all have challenges, but who says that it has to affect my simcha, my happiness? Now what the problem is, that we all are under stress, so I'm looking for all sorts of quick fixes of happiness, this instant gratification. So either it will be a chocolate bar, or a little bit of alcohol, or a good movie, or a massage, or whatever it is. But that doesn't bring me the real happiness. So the real happiness is not what we think. Real happiness is coming only from being connected to God. And all the rest of the happiness that we think brings me happiness is fake happiness. I'm not now going to start judging every person, how they dress, what they drive, where they live. Everybody likes to have some comfortability. But it doesn't mean that that's going to bring you happiness. And if you think that's going to bring you happiness, then you're definitely going on the wrong route. Now, what's the opposite of happiness? The opposite of happiness is sadness. Now, if I'm not fully happy, then I'm sad. And sadness is emptiness. What the Kabbalistic term to it is called mavet, death. It's emptiness, that I'm completely empty and I don't have this feeling of happiness. Now, going back to what I was saying before, because there are many things that will cause me to be unhappy, but one of the things that we focus on today is that when I blame other people for many other things, that constantly my motion is to blame, then I will never be happy. Because as long as I'm blaming, you know where it's coming from? It's coming from frustrations. And when I'm frustrated, then I will blame somebody has to be blamed. And definitely not me, because I'm the symbol of perfection. And I can't be wrong. I mean, after all, most people wake up in the morning, they look at the mirror. Take another look. Shem, what you did here is... Of course you don't say it with words, but that's what you really, really think. So, of course I can't be the one to blame. You're the one to blame. Everybody's wrong. I didn't do anything. So, we want to look at this blaming a little bit, because that's the source of a lot of our problems. If I want to be really happy, I cannot live in any type of emotion that my finger is pointed at anybody, then I'm blaming anybody for anything. This is rule number one. Why? Why specifically blaming? Why not anything else? So, we mentioned we're in the month of Adar. The highlight of the month of Adar is the holiday of Purim. Have you noticed the mitzvot that we have to do on Purim? On Pesach we eat a matzah. Okay, makes sense. Okay, on Sukkot I have to build a sukkah. Makes sense. On Hanukkah I have to eat a donut. Doesn't make sense. Because it's not even a mitzvah. Somebody invented it. And since then it became the national food of Hanukkah. This is not the mitzvah of Hanukkah, to eat a donut. You light candles on Hanukkah. Okay, makes sense. They had the miracle with the oil and the whole thing. What do I do in Purim? So I have to read the Megillah. I have to give matanot le'evyonim. I have to give presents to poor people. I have to give mishloach manot. And I have to do mishteh v'simcha. I have to have a feast. Okay, we're not going to start analyzing now the mitzvot. Maybe if there's time at the end of the lecture, we'll talk about it, because these mitzvot are very, very profound. But look at one of the mitzvot that we have to do. We have to give matanot le'evyonim. We have to give gifts. Don't I do that all day long? Throughout the year. What's so special about Purim? Well, every day I give tzedakah. And every time somebody poor comes to me, I will give him something to eat. So why do I have to do it also in Purim? What's so great about giving that? And you know what? Why don't I give that in Pesach? Pesach is a lot of money. You know what it means to run a whole Pesach? Why don't I give gifts on Pesach? Or maybe I should give a gift also on other holidays. Why in Purim? That's a mitzvah, to give a gift to somebody that is poor. And if you're looking at the Megillah is very, very mystical, very, very deep. The Talmud says that the Megillah was written in Ruach HaKodesh, in the divine inspiration. You have to look at all the words. The words are very profound there. It says there that Haman said something very, very interesting. What does Haman said to Achashverosh about us? Yesh Am Echad, there's one nation, Mefuzar and Meforad. You know what's Meforad? Separated. Mefuzar is spread. Meforad is separated. Look at Haman, how smart he is. They're separated. There's no unity. There's no achdut. They're not together. They don't like each other. He's Ashkenazi, he's Sephardi, he belongs to this group, he belongs to that group. He wears his hat like this, he wears the hat like that. He's Reform, he's Conservative, he's Hasidic. Aman picked up on that 2,500 years ago. They're scattered. They're not together. That's their weakness. He says to Achashverosh, you know that whenever we're united as a nation, nothing can touch us. We are untouchable as a nation whenever we are united. Whenever we are separated, that's when all the problems happen. You know why we have problems as a nation? Because we're separated. Make now an experiment. Take all the Jews and make them united. We're going to be untouchable. Not going to be any problems. You know when we felt it the most? When we received the Torah. We were united. It says in the Torah, Ke'ish echad, belev echad. As one unit. So you know what happened in Matan Torah? All the 6 people became healed. Blind people started seeing. Deaf people started hearing. They became multi-gazillionaires at the time. There wasn't poverty. Because after the ocean closed, all the chariots of Paro washed to the shore. They all went busy there. They all became multi-millionaires. 2 weeks ago we read Parashat Truma. Where would they have gold and copper and silver and rubies and all these expensive materials to give to the Mishkan? Well, in the Bizat Hayam, when the water washed after the sea closed, then they took all this precious stones and gold and silver that came onto the shore. So when we were united, we were super blessed. That was probably one of the only times that we were united. And if you go back also to the story of Purim, how did we beat Aman? With unity. We were united. Mordechai came and says, let's get everybody together. So when I'm not united, that's when I'm subject to an attack. And that's the problem with all of us. And that's Haman picked up on that 2,500 years ago, and he says they are separated from each other. And that's their weakness. And therefore, our sages said, you know what? When I'm giving out this matanot le'evyonim, what's the action that I'm doing? I'm causing this unity and closeness. Now we're all together. I don't judge other people. They come, they need some help, I will give them. Now, what is really the mystical part behind this matanot le'evyonim, the presents to poor people, is that I don't blame other people. I don't point a finger at another person. I don't judge other people. I'm not becoming very criticizing other people. You know, I'm opening my heart. I'm giving now something to somebody else. This is the idea behind it. Now, going back to what I just mentioned before, when we built the Mishkan, everybody donated. Some people donated gold, some people donated copper, some people donated whatever they had. Kol nidvat libo. Whatever you wanted, that's what you gave. And you know what? Some people gave gold, and some people gave copper, and some people gave fabrics, and each one gave something else. Now, you would think, in general, that if every person gives something else, what would it cause? A sense of competition. Right? I'm sure you have noticed in some of the holidays, in some synagogues, who wants the Ptichat Eichal? 1,000, 2,000, 2,500. Do I hear 28? Do I 28? Do I hear 32, 35? This is a competition. But many people says, why were they selling what is business in the shul? Why? Because first of all, you want everybody to be participating. But how come everybody, to raise the hand is very easy. I was a gabbai in a shul for 10 years. To raise the hand, that's the easiest thing. To go like this, to sign the check, that's a little bit harder. But nevertheless, you would think that in the Mishkan that everybody gives something else that will cause some type of a competitive, why is he giving gold? I want to give the gold. But he already gave the gold. You give the silver. I don't want to give silver. I want to give the gold. You would think that it will cause some type of a competition. Now, what it caused in the Mishkan is that I bring what I want to bring. I want to bring this present. And another person will say, I want to bring that present. Not what you bring. So it actually brings me to a point that we're not blaming each other. We're not competing with each other. Rather, you bring what you want, and I will bring what I want, and you will bring whatever you want. The thing is that as long as there's the finger pointing, then I have a problem, and I have to get rid of all this. I have to get rid of my hate to other people, to jealousy of other people, the sense of being competitive with other people. You know, all this that I said now is because sometimes I look at another person and I say, why him and not me? How come his business is better than mine? How come his child looks much more behaved than mine? It's very easy to look somewhere else and says, how come him and not me? And what happens? Starts developing jealousy. And when I'm jealous, then I'll start hating and I'll start resenting. And needless to say, that will build and build and build. That's, by the way, this finger pointing. This is the blaming. That's what I'm talking about. That I look somewhere else and I'm now becoming judgmental and I look, why him and not me? Why him and not them? That's this blaming that I'm talking about. You got to get rid of it. If you have this in your life and you have to make your own accounts, you have to decide how much it is applying to you. We're going to get to it very soon to the end to understand what I need to do and to apply it. But the point is that you have to take everything that I'm saying and see how it's connected to your life. Now, going back again to what I was saying, not for nothing we're talking about it right now. We're in the month of Adar, but also around the month of Adar, there's a group of parashot. We read it last week, the week before, the few coming weeks. All that we're talking about, the plans about the Mishkan. Now you would think, why do you have to tell me how to build the Mishkan? Did we ever build it ever again? No. We built the Mishkan once in the desert and that's it. Why does the Torah go out of its way to tell me how to build a Mishkan? What is IKEA? Make it yourself with the pieces? Have to look at the instructions. We never ever built a Mishkan ever again, and we'll never build a Mishkan. So why is the Torah going out of its way to explain to me every little detail? The answer is because the Mishkan is me. I'm the Mishkan. I am the Mishkan. That's why it says, "V'asitim li mikdash," build me a tabernacle, a sanctuary, v'shachanti betocham, and I will dwell in them. Technically, it should have been betocho. If you speak a little bit of Hebrew, it should have been v'shachanti betocho. Build me a tabernacle, a mikdash, one, and I will dwell in it. Why betocham? Why in all of them? So our sages say, in each and every one of you. So I am the Mishkan. So when the Torah is going through so much length to explain to me how to build a Mishkan, because I am the Mishkan. I am built from wood and from copper and from gold. And in the Mishkan, there's an ark and there's a menorah and there's a table. It's all me. So today we don't have the time to start analyzing every little thing here, but I have to understand that I am getting instructions now from the Torah, not how to build a tabernacle, how to build my own tabernacle. And very, very interestingly, if you see the word Mishkan, Mishkan is a place of dwelling, or the tabernacle, the numerical value, the gematria of the word Mishkan is 410. Before I was telling you that Simcha can only come when you have Kedusha, when you have holiness. The word Kadosh, holy, is the exact same numerical value, 410. So Mishkan is 410, the Gematria, and Kadosh is 410, which means that the Mishkan and Kadosh, Kedusha, it has to go together. Now, in the Mishkan, like I told you, it's not the instructions of IKEA, how to build a tent. Rather, it's how I build my own Mishkan. And in the Mishkan, you found so many things. But, like I said today, we don't have time to go over everything. I want to concentrate on one of the most important parts of the Mishkan, which of course is Aron HaBrit, the Ark of Covenant. If we have a little bit more time, we'll talk about a few other things. But the Ark of the Covenant is the most important. That was the most important part of the tabernacle. And everything else was a very holy article in the Mishkan, but the Ark, the Holy Ark, was something unique. It was really, really unique. First of all, it was so heavy that nobody was able to move it even. It would lift itself, by itself. And it says in the Talmud, Shalom min amidah. It had a measurement, but it would shift the sizes all the time. It was a miraculous sight to see it. You know, on the Holy Ark was the Kruvim, and the Shekhinah would dwell in between. And Moshe Rabbeinu would go into the tent, and the Shekhinah would be right over there. At the time of Bet HaMikdash, they used to move the curtain on Yom Kippur, the parochet, and everybody would see the Shekhinah. Can you imagine that? It only happened in the first Bet HaMikdash. In the second Bet HaMikdash, they didn't have the Aron HaBrit. Because they knew already at the time, was the king of Yehoiachin, and he knew that that the Bet HaMikdash is going to be destroyed. Sorry, the king of Yehoshaphat. And 50 years before the destruction, he hid the Aron HaBrit somewhere in the bottom. People ask, I wonder, where's this Aron HaBrit? People think it's in the Vatican. And it is true, because Titus did take a lot of things in the destruction of the temple. There is in the Vatican probably a lot of the kelim of the Mishkan and Bet HaMikdash, maybe the menorah and many other things. But the Aron HaBrit, nobody touched it. Nobody's able to touch it. Shlomo HaMelech, when he built the Bet HaMikdash, he already built a whole city under Bet HaMikdash. Now they're starting to find some of the tunnels. If you've ever been to Yerushalayim recently, there's a whole city under there. Shlomo HaMelech built a hidden department where Aron HaBrit is hidden, and they didn't have it in the second Bet HaMikdash. 50 years before the destruction, they hid it already. Besides the fact that Aron HaBrit is so powerful and so miraculous that you can look at it and not even see it. It can disappear. It's such a gem that for history, the whole entire history, everybody's trying to find it. Even Indiana Jones was looking for it. So nobody knows where it is. It's somewhere underneath Bet HaMikdash. It can be right in front of us and we don't see it, because the Aron HaBrit was a miraculous thing. The tablets were in there. The pieces of the first tablets are there. The Sefer Torah that Moshe Rabbeinu wrote was in there. The tzintzenet, the jar of the man. And the whole thing is this big, by the way. It's not like a container, a 20-foot container that you can put Luchot HaBrit in there. It's 1.5 amma, 1 by 1.5 amma, by 2.5 amma. That's the whole thing. Nobody was able to move it. It was so heavy. The Aron HaBrit would raise itself. So the Aron is the most a holy part of the Mishkan. So if we're looking at the Aron, and Aron is an ark, it says it had midot akumot. Midah is a measurement, but midah is also a characteristic or character trait. It had a crooked character trait. This is what we have a lot of it. I spoke about it so many times that the student of the Ari Kadosh, of Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, known as the Arizal, his main student, Rabbi Chaim Vital, writes in one of his books that is called Sha'arei Kedusha, the Gates of Holiness, a book this thick with unbelievable, profound information. And he says there that the main thing when we came down to this world is not to do Torah and mitzvot. The Torah and mitzvot are just the tools to help me get to the ultimate purpose. And what's the ultimate purpose? To refine my characteristics. And each and every one of us comes to the world with a whole list of characteristics that are nice and good. I can be charitable, I can be polite, I can be patient, and so forth. But each and every one of us also has a whole list of characteristics that are bad. I'm quick to anger, I'm jealous, I'm quick to judge, I'm not patient, and so forth. And I have to refine my midot. I have to refine my characteristics. And if I have to work on the midah, the characteristic of anger, then my wife, Hashem is going to give me a wife that is going to drive me crazy all day long. So I know to see how much I can control my anger. And if I have to work on my patience, if I have to refine the midah of patience, then Hashem is going to give me kids that are going to drive me out of my mind all day long. So that's how it works. But nevertheless, we already see a hint in the Aron, in the ark, that it had midot akumot, that you have to use the words in 2 words. Midah is a measurement, but midah is also, it's a characteristic, but it was crooked, something that has to be refined. More than that, you know how they built the ark? Very, very special way. First they built an ark from wood. Then they made one piece of gold that the ark of wood can go in it. That was the external part of the ark, and it was one piece of gold. They didn't weld it. They had to build a mold, put the gold in it, and then whoop, take it out, and they have one piece. Then they had another ark, also made out of gold, and then went inside the wood. So it had 3 layers. Inside was one piece, one ark of gold. In between, another ark of wood. Imagine it, just imagine in your mind, like a Tupperware. You know those Tupperwares that one goes inside the other? Same idea. So the inside was gold, one piece. The middle was wood, one piece. And the outside was gold, again, one piece. Now, the ark is very, very unique. If you're looking at a picture, you can look at it online, or maybe you find a book or something. The ark had these rings on the sides, these tabaot, and they had these long sticks in the rings. These sticks are called badim. I know it's very confusing because bad in Hebrew is a fabric. And when you read the Torah and it says badim, you think it's like fabrics. It's not the fabrics. It's a piece of wood, like a stick, that would go in those loops, and that's how they would lift up the Aron. Everything in the Aron has a meaning to it. When you really go to the depth or the mystical explanation of everything, or the Kabbalistic reason why everything was done, it's not that it was some type of a design made by Gucci. There's some type of Kabbalah behind it. Nevertheless, these sticks were called badim, and the way they were made, imagine there's a ring like this, so it went in the ring. Now, it wasn't 100% the same size. There was some type of a gap, so it has some type of freedom. It could go in and out. But the external part became thick that it can't go out. You understand what I'm trying to... The vision, imagine the ark. On the sides, there are rings. There's a stick going in the ring from both sides, so people can lift it up. Again, the stick had like a freedom in it. It was like, imagine there's a stick going in. It wasn't the same size, so it can go inside and move. But nevertheless, the external part became thicker, so the stick is stuck inside. Now, when you're thinking about it, wouldn't it make more sense that when you put the ark down, I'll pull the sticks out, put them in the storage, it's in the way. But nevertheless, they were constantly attached to the ark. Now, we're going to go a little bit more mystical to explain this whole ark. We do know that we all know we have a soul, right? Now, our soul is built from 5 components, 5 levels. From the top to the bottom, the highest part is called Yechidah. Yechidah comes from the word in Hebrew Yichud, not Yachid. Yachid is one. Comes from the word in Hebrew Yichud. Yichud means unity. That's the root, the source, the essence of the soul that is one with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. This is a piece of our soul that we're not really relating with. Then there's another level, one beneath, it's called Chaya. What we know as aura, what Kabbalah calls it Or Makif, a surrounding light. This also doesn't penetrate into the body. Another part of the soul that is beyond the body. But then there's another 3 levels. Neshama, Ruach, and Nefesh. I'm sure you heard the terms at least a couple times. Very, very interestingly, if you're looking in the Torah, when it's talking about the Aron, about the ark, it mentions the name Aron 3 times. One time, it's written Aleph, Resh, Vav, Nun, like how you write Aron. The next time, it's written Aron without the Vav. You know, some words in Hebrew, you can take a letter, but you put a vowel, and you would read it the same way. So the second time it's written Aron, it's Aleph, Resh, Nun, without the Vav. And the third time it's written Aron, it's with the Vav. So we have 3 times the word Aron, which means ark. The first and the last are with a Vav, and the middle doesn't have a Vav. Now, I not to go too much sophisticated with the Kabbalah about our soul, but there's a reason why we do mitzvot. The mitzvah is not a burden. Don't think that some bunch of old guys with beards 2,000 years ago sat in some cave and said, okay, how are we going to annoy these guys? Let's come up with some annoying rules. This is not how it works. Every mitzvah has a lot of reasons why we do it. The mitzvot are not a burden. If you're smart, you do all the mitzvot. And we have to do 613 mitzvot. It's called Taryag mitzvot. Why? Because if I want to refine and fulfill and reach to the point that my nefesh, ruach, neshama, the parts of the soul that are in me, are nourished, it can only be done with mitzvot. There's no other way of doing it. I cannot give my soul sushi and my soul will be happy. My soul doesn't care about sushi. That's why you see great tzaddikim, they don't need to sleep much, they don't eat much, they don't need anything from this world. because they get their energy from the soul. Most people think that they get their energy from their body, right? Why, do you know why you're tired at the end of the day? Not because you worked hard, because your soul is depleted. Your soul is like an iPhone. Or if you have an Android, I don't want to chas v'shalom say lashon hara about the iPhones. But at the end of the day, the battery is out and you have to plug it. Sometimes in the middle of the day when you see that 13%, oh my God, do you have a charger? Do you have a charger? So the same thing with the soul. The soul at the end of the day gets depleted, no energy, so you become tired. You're not tired because you worked hard. You're only tired because you ran out of spiritual energy. And you know what's the proof that our body gets the energy only because of the soul? Because go now to a dead person and give him an energy bar. Would it make any difference? No. Because he's dead. The soul gives the energy. The soul is out of the body. There's no energy. So the only thing that gives me energy is only my soul. How do I replenish the soul? Only with Torah and mitzvot. If I'm tired, it's only because my soul ran out of energy. Now, needless to say, when I do a sin, like a flat tire, all the energy goes out. That's the problem with most people. A man wakes up in the morning, he goes to the Bet Knesset, he puts tefillin on, he's a nuclear reactor of energy. Can you imagine how much energy a person gets by putting tefillin on? He's exploding with energy. But then, 2 minutes later, he goes out of the shul, he says one word of lashon hara, all the energy went out. So we are building energy, but we don't know how to contain it. So the energy is only coming from Torah and mitzvot. That's the only way how I get energy. Now, I have to do all 613 mitzvot. There's a reason for that. But how can I do all 613 mitzvot? I cannot do all 613 mitzvot. Because I'm not a Kohen. A lot of the mitzvot, you have to be a Kohen. I'm not a melech, I'm not a king. How am I going to do mitzvot of a king? I'm not a woman, I'm a man. Last time I checked. But I can't do many of the mitzvot. A lot of the mitzvot, they have to be with Bet HaMikdash. A lot of the mitzvot have to be in Eretz Israel. So how do I do all the mitzvot? It's impossible. You know how I do it? That when we're all one, then we're covering for each other. If you are a Kohen and I'm not, then you doing the mitzvot of the Kohen, I'm doing my mitzvot together, we're completing each other. That's the only way to complete all the mitzvot. There's no way that one person can complete all the mitzvot together. It has to be done as a group. And it's a group effort and everybody's doing their part. Now, what does that mean to me practically? It means that I cannot have any pointing finger at anybody. Because when I point the finger at you, I bring judgment on you. It means I have to be a defense attorney to everybody. I have to make sure that everybody are doing good. Because if you're doing bad, I'm doing bad. If you're suffering, I will suffer. If you're not successful, I'm not successful. That's the problem as most people think. They think that if I smash you into pieces, then I will be better. People don't realize that if all of us are doing great, then I will do great too. It's a group effort. And if I will put you down, then I will be down. That's how it works. Which means that I have to constantly judge people favorably. I'm sure you're familiar with one of the Mishnayot in the book, the Tractate of Avot, which says, always judge a person favorably. Because you don't know what's the circumstances. You don't know what came before that. You don't know what's the reason why that person is doing that. Why are you judging that person not favorably? When you're judging that person not favorably, you're bringing judgment on that person. Right in this moment, I lost my partner. Why do you take a partner? Because you contribute one thing to the business and the partner is contributing his part to the business. Same thing with a wife, same with anything. Why do we work together? Because you have something I don't have. And I have something you don't have. So if we get together, then we all complete each other. Now, if you're looking at the order of the ark, with what I explained to you before about the combination of our soul, so the nefesh, ruach, neshama, the lowest parts of the neshama, they correspond to the inner side, the inner part of the ark, the gold ark. The body, that corresponds to the wood. And the external part, the gold ark from the outside, that corresponds to the level that is called chaya, and this is for what relates to us is neshama and neshama, when we are united with each other, then we help each other. This is the idea behind the ark. Very, very interestingly, if you read the parasha of Truma, you will see that Moshe was commanded to do everything in the ark, but the ark. Moshe, it says, Ve'asita menorah, ve'asita kelim. You have to do Moshe. Moshe did everything, but when it came to the Aaron, it talked plural. Everybody has to do the Aaron. It's not Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't do the Aaron. Moshe Rabbeinu was not involved in the actual ark. All the people were involved in the ark. And very, very interestingly, when you're looking at this, you know, the Kohanim were the ones who lifted up, they worked around the ark, and the Leviim, they picked up the ark. Have you ever thought, imagine now how the ark is built and the sticks that I told you, the badim, if one guy is 1 centimeter shorter, wouldn't it be that the ark is already like going sideways? Which means one has to put more effort that the ark will be straight, right? Just think about it. They had to be they all had the same height in the turns. But this comes to teach me something very, very interesting, because each and one of the people who are carrying the ark was a different height. But once they all carried it, the ark will balance itself and will become completely balanced. Which comes to teach you that in order to get complete balance, then it has to be differences. If everything is equal, then there's not a good balance. In order to get a good balance, has to be a difference of heights. What is called choser atama, that it doesn't fit. Sometimes when a person goes and looks for a partner for their life, a husband, wife, they're looking for a perfect match. But that's not a good fit. It cannot be a perfect match, because if it's too perfect, then it's not for you. It has to be something that is not fitting well. Then it fits. Then there's balance. You have to have something I don't have. I have to have something you don't have. And this can be in a partnership, in business, can be anything. If it's too perfect, it will never fit. It has to be difference. Now, when I told you before that the rings, the stick was inside, it had to have this freedom. You know why specifically freedom? Because when I'm working in any type of relationship, it has to be freedom. You can't hold somebody down. Not your husband, not your wife, not your kids, anything. You can only operate when there's freedom. And the reason why it says in the ark, the first one was written with a vav, the last one was written without a vav, with a vav, and the middle one without a vav. You know what a vav means in Hebrew? I know it's the letter, but vav means a hook. And a hook is what, you know, how you connect two things together with a vav. That's how you connect things. So the way that they built the ark had to have the vav, the connectors. So when you're looking at all this, it brings you to understand that in the piece of the tabernacle, when they had the ark, there's an ark in me. And the ark has to be built in a certain way. And the way that the ark is getting its Kedusha, when it's united, has to be unity. And the unity is when I'm not exactly the same like you. Has to be differences. But it has to be the way how it's connected. Just to talk a few other kelim in the Mishkan so we can conclude it. There was another kli, another vessel in the Mishkan, that was called the Shulchan. The Shulchan, there was a table. And on the table, you know what they had on the table? They had bread. Lechem apanim. On the table there was bread. Very interestingly, it says lechem apanim. You know, panim is inside, but panim is also the face. So if it says that the lechem, the bread, was panim, face, you know what it didn't have? Achor. It didn't have a back. If not, it would say lechem achor, but it says lechem panim. It means it only had the face of the bread. Why specifically bread? Kabbalistically saying, this is something interesting to know because you'll observe Shabbat and you have challah on the table. The word lechem in Hebrew has a numerical value 78. 78 is 3 times the name of Hashem Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, 26, 26, 26 bring you to the number 78. That's why they had the bread on the table, and specifically if you take the 3 times the name of Hashem, it's 12 letters. That's why we had 12 breads. Even up until today, many people on the Shabbat table, they put 12 breads. Some people don't do it, they make the challah out of 6 and 6 pieces of dough. But nevertheless, the bread constantly had to be hot on the table. Can you imagine what type of a bread it was? Unbelievable. But nevertheless, it had to be constantly warm on the table. The table represents the vessel for warmness, and for what's called zugiyut, for relationship. So the Mishkan had to have the base of a relationship. If there's no warmth in a relationship, the relationship will never work. And the relationship can be between me and my wife and me and my kids and anything. Even if it's my partner, it doesn't have to be an intimate warmth. Warmth means that we accept each other. And I'm willing to step back when it's time for me to step back. When it's time for you to shine, it's time for you to shine, and so forth. More than that, we had another vessel, which was the menorah. The menorah was the not really the candelabra, rather, the only way of saying it is the menorah. Okay, that's the easiest way of saying. But very interestingly, the menorah in the Torah is written also in two different ways. One time it's written with a vav, again this vav, and the vav always represents, vav in Hebrew is called vav achibur, the vav a hook, that hooks two things together. When you see something in the Torah that doesn't have the vav, it means that there's no connection. And it's all about making the connection and having the unity. One time in the Torah, it says menorah with a vav, mem nun resh vav hey, and one time it says it without the vav. The menorah, of course, was something very, very unique. You know the whole story. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't know how to do the menorah. Hashem told him, throw the gold into the fire. The menorah came out. When the menorah is written with the vav, the numerical value of the word menorah is 301. 301. Now there's another word that has the numerical value of 301. And that's the word fire. Esh. That's how the menorah was done. Shem told Moshe, take gold, throw it in the fire, and the menorah came out. What is this numerical value? Why Esh? Esh is fire. Fire is light and warmth and enlightenment and kindness and so forth. When it's written menorah without a vav, the numerical value of it is 295. 295 shares the same numerical value of a name, of a word, tzara. Tzara is a problem. I'm not Ashkenazi, but I know the Ashkenazi says, how would it say, tzuris? Tzuris, right? I don't know how you say it any other way, but tzara, problem. So when the menorah in my life, I told you already, the Mishkan is in me. When it's with a vav, then it's fire, then that's positivity, that's warmth and chesed and kindness and love and so forth. When I don't have the vav, when there's no connection, when there's no unity, then my menorah is missing a vav, then the menorah becomes a tzara, becomes a problem. And the problem will come in many different ways. So again, we're constantly coming to this vav achibur, to this vav, this hook that connects together. So when you're looking at the ark and the menorah and the table, it all funnels to the same thing, to this connection, to this unity. And what causes the disunity is that, again, when I point my finger and I blame somebody, again, going back to this whole thing that I blame somebody, and the blaming is being judgmental towards somebody else, and when I'm criticizing somebody else, and so forth. And I got to get rid of that. When I get rid of that, what happens is, then I cause the vav, the unity. If I remove that, it's my choice. I can choose if to judge you or not. And when I'm judging, what did I say before? When you have the ashma, when you have the blame, you'll never be happy. Why? Because I'm separated from you. I'm not whole. I'm not complete. We are meant to help each other. We are meant to share. We are meant to be united. We are not the same like all other nations. We are a different nation. We read it so many times. The Kadosh Baruch Hu separated us from the nation. We are a different nation. Our strength is when we are united. When we are not united, then we'll have our downfall. That's when the tzara happens. Now the unity can come between two huge communities, and the unity can be between me and my son, or me and my wife, or any random person that I don't even know that's standing in front of me in the supermarket. But the point I want to take from that is, as long as my finger is pointing at somebody else in blaming And the blaming, don't just take the word blaming. I use the word because in Hebrew it's called ashma, lehashim. That means judgmental. And that means when I'm looking at another person and I'm criticizing their behavior. Look how he's talking, look how he's behaving, look how he's doing, look how he's doing this and that. It's my choice. I choose if I'm going to put the finger out you or not. And you know what? When I want to build a mikdash, when I want to build a tabernacle, it can only be my choice. I told you before that the real simcha only happens when there's Kedusha. Kedusha is holiness. If there's no holiness, then there won't be Kedusha. I have to build this mishkan in me. And the only way of doing it is that I know how to judge other people favorably, that I don't blame other people. Now, I'm not saying that it's easy. I'm not saying that you're going to walk out of this door tonight and says, you know, that's a great idea. Tomorrow, I'm stopping to blame everybody. It's not going to work so easy, but nevertheless, you at least want to take the idea and to apply it. And the whole point is when you come to a class is to take something out of the class. So many people come to a class, they made the effort, they drove all the way, they're sitting here for a whole hour like this, nodding. Everybody nods. In my classes, everybody agrees with me. You know, when I first came to America, I'm not American, I'm Israeli, but when I first came to America, I live in Tzfat, They had this popular thing, the Taco Bell dog that they used to put on the dashboard. Every time you you press the brakes. So I get a lot of nodding when I talk. The point is not just to nod. The point is, what are you taking out of the class? If you came here to eat the sushi, that's very nice. But you came here, if you're smart at least, to take something out of the door. I mean, we're not giving out souvenirs, but at least take something out of the door. Why did you come here? If you came to a class and then you left, a class, a lecture, doesn't matter, and you don't taking something out of it, so why did you come? That's something you have to ask yourself. When I first became observant, I used to learn a lot of Torah, and then I got married, Baruch Hashem. And sometimes I would go to a class, and I would come home. And my wife would tell me, "No, what did you learn?" It was a very interesting class, but what did you learn? I didn't remember nothing. It was amazing, but what did you learn? Listen, it's too deep, you won't get it. It's way too, I just didn't remember anything. So I made myself a decision that if I'm already doing the effort and I'm going to the class, get something out of it. I'm not expecting you to memorize every word that I said, but there has to be some type of action. That when you leave the door tonight, you say, okay, what can I take from what I just heard that I can apply into my life? Because if you don't do that, then you literally just sat here and enjoyed the refreshments. So the point is, when you leave the door, you want to take at least one word that I said and you apply it to your life. And what you want to apply into your life is that I want to be happy. Everybody wants to be happy. I don't think that any person in the world that if we make a survey, they'll raise their hands and say, no, I really want to be depressed. I enjoy the sadness, and everybody wants to be happy. So I have to understand that especially now in the month of Adar, when I have the opportunity, the energy to tap into this energy, it's very easy to access. Sometimes things are hard to access, sometimes things are easy to access. You know, I lived here in America 18 years. A very special country, but there's one habit in this country that I never figured out. Have you noticed that every time there's a holiday, there's a sale? 4th of July, 90% off. Veterans Day, shop all you can. Memorial Day, buy one, get one free. Oh, somebody died 400 years ago, I'm getting a free mattress. So, you think the Americans invented the sales? The Kadosh Baruch Hu invented the sales. He's the master of sales. So sometimes in your life there are opportunities where you can get something for 90% off. I'm sure you want to get stuff for 90% off in Black Friday. People waiting next to the door. They slaughter other people to get that first iPhone. So sometimes there are opportunities in my life where things are very easy to access. In Judaism, we call them Eit Ratzon, an auspicious time. So sometimes in your life, there's an auspicious time. So now we have an auspicious time, we have a month, we actually have a double month, 2 Adars, where this is very easy to access, where I can tap into a certain energy and apply it into my life. So you want to take at least, I try to keep it as simple as possible tonight, and if we need to simplify it even more, then I have to be much less and at some point not at all judgmental. And whenever you catch yourself that you're judging another person, or you're starting to criticize another person, you click the pause button. No, I don't want to criticize that person right now. Because the second that I'm judging or criticizing the other person, I'm throwing the blame on that other person. So I created a disunity, a separation. Right on the spot, the Kedusha disappeared. Any Kedusha that I had. Right in that spot, that's it. I lost my joy and happiness. When I lose my joy and happiness, then I become miserable and sad and upset and angry. And what kind of bracha can I have in my day? What kind of blessing can I have? You think I'm going to have blessing in my business the second that I did something like that? The worst of all worst sins is sinat chinam. We're now going to celebrate the holiday of Purim. Purim was right after the destruction of the first temple. 67 years, exactly. Now why is the first temple destroyed? Because of idol worship, forbidden relations, and bloodshed. Because the sin was revealed, then the length of the exile was revealed. When they left Yerushalayim, the prophet Yirmiyahu told them, you're going to be 70 years in exile. Sure enough, 67 years later, the story of Purim, 3 years later, they make a U-turn and go back to Yerushalayim. But the second Beit HaMikdash was destroyed from one sin, sinat chinam, baseless hate. And because the sin is not revealed, then the length of the exile is not revealed. And up until today, we are in exile because of sinat chinam, not from anything else. We have everything in our generation. We have so much Torah in our generation. There was never so much Torah in any generation. There are thousands of yeshivot all over the world. Everywhere you'll put your finger on, you'll find the yeshiva there. Millions and millions of hours of Torah on YouTube. There's not a problem of Torah. There are cities of Torah. So we don't have a problem with Torah. Same thing with chesed. You know how much chesed is around there in the world? How many charity organizations? How much tzedakah people give? We're not lacking chesed. But we do lacking Ahavat Israel. We have a problem with sinat chinam. And a lot of people, I know now the nodding stopped. But, because people don't want to admit, no, sinat chinam, what are you talking about? I love you. You love me outside, you love me. But, unfortunately, this is something we have to acknowledge. And the sinat chinam is not if I look at somebody else from a different group or a different shul. Sometimes the sinat chinam is my wife. She said something that hurt my ego, and I hate her right now. That's it. It's very simple. This is also sinat chinam. Or because she stepped on your toe and she said something bad about it hurt your feelings. If somebody said something that hurt my feelings, it means that they're right in most cases. If not, my ego will not get upset. Because if I wouldn't have any ego, then I would say, you're right. Who am I kidding? You're 100% right. But I'm not happy when you tell me that I was late. Or that I didn't do the job right. Or I didn't do something wrong. I got upset because you hurt my feelings. So, what we want to take from that is we have to take the opportunity of this powerful month to tap into this energy where I can bring out to the surface the sense of laughter, of real happiness, of the unity in the nation. And who's the one who's going to benefit from it the most? Only you. You become really happy. You're content. You're not worried about things. Challenges, we're always going to have challenges. Everybody has challenges. Everybody has problems. And you finish with one problem, a different problem will come. It's not that you're finishing with problems. You have problems till the last day of your life. I have a yeshiva for men in Tzvat, but it's a very unique yeshiva. It's not a yeshiva for 18-year-olds. It's a yeshiva for older men that want to learn Torah. 3 years ago, we opened the Women's Center for older women, mature women that want to learn Torah. Today in our generation, a woman in her 60s wants to learn Torah. Where does she go? There's not a lot of places. So she comes to us. All our students are in their 60s. We have students in their 70s. We have a student, she's 79 years old. Women want to learn Torah. They don't know where to go. So once we saw that the women's program is very, very successful, we did the same thing for the men. So now we have men in their 50s, 60s. We have a student, he's 84 years old. Every day he comes, he learns. So why am I saying that? because I talk to, I'm like a tzutzik there. I'm like the grandson of the students. I'm the only one with some black hair in my beard. Everybody's there with... So, why am I telling you all this? It's because they all tell me the same thing. You think the challenges and the problems only when you're in your 40s? No, also when you're 60s, and also when you're 70s, and also in your 80s you have problems. The problems don't stop. You know when they stop? When you close your eyes and you go up to Shamayim. That's when problems stop. So we always have problems. But it doesn't mean it has to take away from my simchat chaim, from my life, my energy, and my happiness. So we want to take all this opportunity, and I'm talking about this auspicious time, this month, that Mishenichnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha. It's not because of the historical fact, it's because of the energy of the month. And all I need to do, I need to do a lot of things, but at least today, so that you have something to walk out of this door, is just be, I want to say less judgmental. Be not judgmental. Don't be judgmental. Stop being judgmental. If this has to be the highlight of your focus, and you have to take something from the door tonight, you say, okay, now from today on, I'm going to really monitor and focus my thoughts, how I'm thinking of another person, how much I'm criticizing the behavior of somebody else. And you always look at something good. You choose to take the spotlight, and instead of focusing on something bad, why don't you focus on something good? I can tell you from my experience, if you come now to somebody, whether it's my wife or my kid, if I will right away attack them with all the bad things that I see, you know what reaction I'm going to get? A real harsh one. But if I come to my wife and I tell her how much effort she put into whatever it is, the education of the kids or whatever. If my kids, I tell them how much effort they put, I see how much you tried in your test or whatever it is. You get the best out of a person. When you're focusing on the good, later on you can come and say, listen, by the way, after you pouring some positivity on the person, by the way, what you did here and here is not so good. We have this mitzvah from the Torah. You have to prove a person. But don't do it. Don't throw it on the person. I get 10 times more better results when I come to a person and I come up with all the good things, and by the way, also this is not 100%. So try it, put it to the test, and I can guarantee to you you'll have a better relationship with your wife, with your husband, with your kids, with your employees, with your partners, with people that are random in your life, and you know what's the result of it? That you're going to be a much, much more happier person. So to conclude, you have the control whether you're going to be happy or not. You have the power to do the switch on or off. And now, at the time of Adar, then we have a much easier access to this energy. B'ezrat Hashem should bless you all to have ultimate, real true happiness in your life, real simchat chaim, that everything that you do should be successful, and everything that you decide to do should be fruitful, and you should see positivity in your relationships, in your business, in parnasah. Hashem should bless you all with great, great simcha, happiness, parnasah, briyut, and everything that your heart desires. Hashem should bless you in the best way possible. You should merit to have a Chag Purim Sameach. And Be'ezrat Hashem, I should merit to see you all very soon in Eretz Israel. So we can see. In Tzfat, in Tzfat. Now you know where I live. I said it like 17 times. Be'ezrat Hashem should, again, bless you all with great happiness and success. Be'ezrat Hashem, only besorot tovot. Rabbi Hanania ben Akasher אומר, רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות את ישראל. לפיכך הרבה להם תורה ומצוות שנאמר, אדוני חפץ למען צדקו, יגדיל תורה ויאדיר. אמן. Amen.